See.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you. Come on, sit down. Bernard, thank you for giving us the time today.
Yes, sir.
You're serving 5 life sentences for killing 5 young women. So my first question is, did you kill those women?
Yes, sir, I did.
Let's go back to your early life. With most people that commit heinous crimes,
Yes, sir.
you can normally point to something that doesn't justify but might go some way to explaining it. The curious thing about your early life is there doesn't seem to be anything there. There was no appalling upbringing. You were one of 4 kids.
Yeah.
You were well taken care of.
My brothers and sisters have done well.
You were loved as a child.
Yes.
And was the driving force for that compulsion, was it violence? Was it
Sexual.
It was all sexual.
It was all sexual. And that's the thing. It's like people who, they become imprinted before they're 5 or 6. I knew the roots of mine. I knew where it came from.
Where did it come from?
The initial sexual imprinting was an act of violence against a girl.
You were 6 years old and you were playing just a game of witch hunt,
Yeah.
where a girl would pretend to be a witch and you
Right.
would all chase after her. She
Right.
was a neighbor of yours.
Right. It was in a back bedroom. And the part that I remember was straddling her and strangling her, right? Playing. And that was my initial sexual imprint. From that point on, as a child growing up, I became obsessed with this.
When you were 16, there was a young woman walking in front of you and you suddenly felt an urge to kill her. Tell me about that.
It was like an opportunity that had presented itself to me. And this woman was getting into a VW, and I had a knife, and I went past the car, and fortunately I kept going. I just kept going.
What were you feeling in that moment?
Extraordinarily hyped.
And what were you thinking you may do to that woman?
Well, if it had gone the other way, I'd have murdered her.
At the age of 16?
Yes, sir.
I mean, it's a chilling thing to hear. This is not, I'm sure you recognize this, this
Yes,
is
sir.
not a normal
Oh, I understand
conversation. None of this feels normal.
that. Sir.
You're 16 years old and you have just this extraordinary compulsion to kill this woman.
Yes, sir.
But it passed. You moved on.
Yes, sir. It just wasn't overwhelming. It didn't, it was just, and I didn't. I just kept moving.
And if you hadn't kept moving, that woman,
Would have been murdered.
and she would have no idea to this day, I imagine.
No, she never even glanced back at me.
You wished you had killed her.
No, I don't. I'm glad that I didn't. I wish I hadn't killed any of my victims.
Were you in any doubt at that stage that one day it would happen?
No doubt at all.
You knew this was something you had to do.
Yes, sir. It was, for me, this was my life's passion up to that point.
To do what?
To murder women.
Viewers watching this going, this guy was apparently normal, late teenage guy. He's got married, he's got a little baby girl. Life seems fine, and yet ticking away is this horrific time bomb.
And that's very frequently been the case. That you have people that they present as perfectly normal.
That day that you went out, when you did kill for the first time, was that a morning when you woke up and you were with your wife and daughter and something hit you and you went,
No,
today may be the day?
every day may be the day.
Every day.
Every day may be the day.
Do you know the name of your first victim?
No, sir. Not now. Nancy Jerry.
Did you know anything about her life?
I found out later she was a singer in a bar. That was it.
Tell me what happened.
We picked her up in Titusville. There's a wooded area, and I pulled off the road.
What does she look like?
A little shorter than me. Fairly well built. Pretty, but not particularly pretty. Brown hair. That's about it.
And at what point did she realize that you were going to harm her?
Well, not necessarily that I was going to harm her. Because, most of them don't assume you're actually going to kill them. Most of them assume it's a rape or something like that. Or a robbery or whatever, And...
Had you been talking normally to her?
Yeah, but there wasn't much to the conversation. The weapon speaks for itself.
What did you then do?
I told her to get out of the car, and that's when she became afraid. Up to that point, I assumed that she thought it was just going to be a rape. I walked her over in front of a tree, and then I shot her.
Just like that?
Yes, sir.
And what were you feeling?
Very stimulated, very provoked, very... the thing is, your passion in your life. What is the thing that you like to do more than anything else? And you're doing it. You are so there that it's like you can see the atoms vibrating. It's difficult to describe.
What was your criteria for a victim?
Access.
To any woman?
Yes, sir.
Did it matter how old they were or what they looked like? Or
generally speaking, no.
It could literally have been any woman that happened to stray into your orbit.
Yes, sir.
When you were cruising in your car and they were thumbing a lift.
Yes, sir.
That made you at the time an unbelievably dangerous man for any young woman.
Yes, sir. See, I'm not defending the position. I'm describing the position. It was what I was and where I was at.
Were you aware that there was now a hunt for what police began to realize was a serial killer?
Not really until, I had known that they had found a body.
And that was Paula's body?
Yes, sir. Probably, I guess.
Victim, you remember the name, but do you remember the names of any of the victims?
No, sir.
None at all?
No.
They meant nothing to you?
Why would I do that? Why would someone embrace the names of their victims? I saw these women as objects.
This woman, Paula Hamrick, who was a mum of two young kids who've never known their mother. She'd thought to humanize herself to you. She might still be alive. But she didn't say you killed her.
Yes, sir.
This is Carolyn? Very young?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember these faces as I show you them?
No, sir. Truthfully, I don't.
14, this girl. As was this one, 14. Do you remember her?
No, sir.
You don't really remember any of these girls? By face?
No, sir. Some women actually saved their lives by engaging me in conversations.
How many?
3 I can think of right off. I actually went to the home of one I got in a conversation about smoking marijuana. She rolled up a few joints. We drove around the neighborhood and smoked one, and I let her off at her house.
And what were you thinking you may do to that woman?
Well, if it had gone the other way, I'd have murdered her.
What I struggle with you, you kill 5 women, but all the time you're going back to your marital home.
Yes, sir.
With Leslie, your wife, and your daughter, Heather.
Sure.
How are you functioning in normal married life in this extraordinary 12, 13-week period?
Badly.
What do you mean?
I don't know. It was just, as this thing's taking me over, I'm kind of disintegrating as a person. Me and my wife are fighting all the time. I'm out. It's obsessions take you over.
Did you get any urge to kill your wife?
No.
Never?
No.
Why not? She was there, she was a woman.
I knew her. You know, I never killed anybody I knew. It's that thing about objectification of the victim. For me, that was an important element.
Do you remember doing that?
No, sir.
Well, it's 45 years since you have probably seen that.
Can I ask you something just a moment? This is a little strange for me because I recognize elements of my own style, and yet I can't remember doing these, honestly.
You definitely did it.
No, that's strange. For real.
I mean, that one there, for example,
Yes, sir.
when you look at it, notwithstanding the fact you can't remember it very well, but it's a very macabre image.
Yes, sir, I did.
A young woman, you have a sort of devil-like figure at the top there, skeleton.
That's not a woman.
That's not?
No.
Or is that you?
I don't know.
You had long hair at the time,
I
right?
had long hair at the time.
So that could have been you, in fact.
It could have been me.
It's got needles, it's got snakes, it's got skeletons, it's a very macabre...
Not a happy scene.
Right. Right. Giles drew the... Let me just take you back to just before you first killed. You meet a woman, you fall in love, you get married, her name is Leslie.
Yes.
Tell me about her.
Good woman. Good woman. First time I ever saw my wife. She was a friend of my sister's. She had just made friends with my sister. And I passed through the living room. I was sitting there watching television. And when I saw Leslie, I knew I was going to marry her. You know, there have been numerous instances in my life where I know something. I just remembered that, that's the one right there.
Do you remember how you proposed to her?
Over the phone.
That was it.
Yeah. Not very romantic.
You're a young man, but you married this beautiful young woman, family there, it all seems...
Normal.
Yeah. Did it feel normal to you that day when you got married?
Yes, sir.
But you would have sex with your wife? You had a
Yes,
normal married life in that respect?
Yes, sir.
And did you feel like you loved her?
Yes. But truthfully, I didn't, I did love her. But, I was completely obsessed with this other thing. And I didn't really realize how much I did love my wife until the last time I ever saw her through, half-inch bulletproof glass,
Two of your victims you took back to within a few hundred yards of where you lived. What was your thinking in doing that?
I wasn't thinking. there's no logical reason for having done that.
It's quite a high-risk thing to do, I guess.
Yeah, but I wasn't doing my best thinking at that point in time.
You didn't really care.
Well, they have an expression here, basically off the chain. I was, like I said, I wasn't doing my best thinking.
And did you panic?
Basically, yeah. I didn't know that they actually had my name. So about the time that I get home, the police are setting up, and they got me.
When you were caught, was it a relief?
No, it wasn't a relief.
Were you angry because it meant you probably wouldn't be able to kill again?
No, I wasn't angry. Life got very complicated.
How did your wife react to you being arrested?
Well, at first, she wanted to stay with me. But, I basically understood that, I was over. I was done with.
But did she ask you if it was true?
Yes, sir. And the first time she asked me, I lied to her. She knew I had problems.
But not this kind of
psychological. She just didn't know how deep it was. I'm sure she must have suspected. I mean, not that I had done that, but after I'd gotten arrested, that, yeah, okay, that's him.
You seem, when it comes to real emotions,
yeah,
pretty cold. I mean...
Yeah, I get that a lot.
When was the last time you cried about anything?
Braveheart. I saw the movie Braveheart.
When?
1998, 99, someplace along in there.
That's 20 years ago.
Been a while.
And why did that make you cry?
Hollywood presents this, really pristine picture of a human being, what you sort of wish you could be. This perfect human being. And I was basically crying because I was mourning my life.
You lost a wife, you lost your daughter.
I lost everything.
You lost everything, yeah. What, was it worth it, this? I mean,
no, of course not.
And do you know what happened to your daughter? Have you ever heard from her?
No, sir.
How does that make you feel?
What can you do with that?
We had a picture there.
Yeah.
What do you feel when you see your daughter?
I don't know exactly.
When you look at your own daughter, that age, smiling, innocent, happy, what do you feel about the young women you killed?
I don't put those together.
I mean, what would you feel about a man who snatched your daughter and terrorized and raped and killed her?
I certainly wouldn't appreciate it.
That's it? That's how you'd feel?
Like I said, I certainly wouldn't appreciate it.
You've never apologized.
To who?
Who do you think you should apologize to?
Let me ask you a question. I assume that to the families of the victims.
I mean, it should be incumbent on you as the perpetrator of the crime to work out who you think you maybe should apologize to. I mean, you killed, by your own admission, these 5 young women. Who do you think you owe an apology to?
If I were going to apologize to anybody, it would be the families.
Have you ever done that?
I don't feel I have the right. How do you get a letter in the mail from the person who killed your daughter? Right? Hey, I'm sorry.
They may well be watching this. Those families. I mean, if you look at that camera, if they are watching, what would you say to them?
I really don't know what to say, truthfully.
I mean, don't say it to me, say it to them.
What do you say to somebody that you murdered a member of their family?
Right.
I don't know.
Isn't the very least you could say?
Is I'm sorry?
Isn't that the very least you could do? Is just to actually
Of course I'm sorry. The fact that we're having this conversation in this way, yes, I'm sorry.
Here's an opportunity for you to speak to the...
Yeah.
Wow.
When you finish here with me, I'll go back to my normal life. And I'll when I go back to my hotel room this afternoon, I'll feel quite unsettled by this encounter. But when you go back to your cell later, having talked about all this today with me, will you have any feelings about it, really?
Probably.
And what are they likely to be?
Truthfully, I have a great deal of respect for you. And it unsettles me just a little bit that you have such a monstrous view of me.
I have a complicated view because to me now, I didn't know what you'd done. When we had a regular conversation about stuff going on in the news, I would imagine we'd have a perfectly normal, rational, and probably quite interesting conversation. But it's very, very hard to get past what I know that you did to these girls.
I understand.
It's very hard.
I understand.
Not to feel that sense of just utter revulsion.
Yes, sir. And I understand that. I understand all of that.
Well, thank you for the interview.
Thank you, sir.